In this video, we're going to go ahead and build a beginner-friendly Python project, a memorable yet strong password generator. We'll take simple inputs like your favorite sport, food, and number, and then turn them into a password that's easy to remember but hard to crack. If you're just starting out with Python, don't worry, because I'll walk you through the code line by line, explain exactly how it works, and by the end, you'll understand how to use functions, loops, strings, and randomness to build your own password creator. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so first I'm going to go ahead and import random. Now the reason we're using random is because we want to randomly replace certain letters in our words with lookalike symbols. For example, A becomes the @ sign. Now this adds a little extra security to our passwords, but still keeps them readable. Next, let's go ahead and define the main function. Alright, so here I basically define a function called memorable passwords, and then everything our program does will be inside this function. I'm going to start off by printing a message to the user to let them know what's happening. Now I'm going to actually rename this to memorable password. Next, we're going to go ahead and ask the user for some inputs. Now, whenever we're doing user input, remember that we first need to declare our variables. So I'm going to ask the user for their favorite sport, food, and number. So I'm going to say sport equals, food equals, and number equals. And those are my three variables. Now let's go ahead and ask for some input. So I'm going to go ahead and say input, parentheses, and then I'm going to say enter your favorite sport. And so that's going to go ahead and display in the output section of our screen. And then I'm going to go ahead and add .strip. And basically what that does is that removes any extra spaces at the beginning or the end of their input. And that basically ensures our password looks clean and neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this, rename this to food, and rename this to number. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and define the substitutions dictionary. Now the reason we're doing this is because we want our password to be strong yet memorable. So we can replace letters like A, I, O, etc. with their lookalike symbols like the @ sign, the exclamation point, the $sign, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and create a dictionary. I'm going to name it substitutions. And I'm going to set it equal to curly brackets. And so my first value is going to be A, and I'm going to map it to the lookalike symbol @ comma. Then I'm going to go ahead and do I, and to me I looks like the exclamation point. Another comma. Let's go ahead and do L, and to me L looks like the number 1. Next I'm going to go ahead and do O, and to me that looks like 0. And then finally let's just do S and make it the $sign. Okay, so now that I've created a dictionary, I'm going to go ahead and define another function, and that's basically going to help us replace these letters with lookalike symbols. So I'm going to go ahead and say def, and then I'm going to create replace with lookalike. And then I'm going to go ahead and pass the parameter word. And so this function is going to take a word and go through each letter we have in our dictionary and replace it with the symbol sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and say new word, and then an empty quotation marks. And so we start with an empty string, which will build into the modified word. And then I'm going to go ahead and say for IDX, in enumerate word. And so basically we're going to loop through every character in the word, keeping track of its index. Then I'm going to go ahead and say if IDX is equal to 0, remember to use double equal signs since we're comparing and not assigning, colon, new word plus equals C.upper, parentheses. And so basically if it's the first letter right over here, we're going to go ahead and capitalize it. And this just makes the password look nicer and more readable. Then I'm going to go ahead and say elif c.lower in substitutions, and random parentheses, let's do less than 0.7, new word, plus equals substitutions, and then I'm going to go ahead and put brackets and c.lower parentheses. Okay, so basically we're doing what we're doing right here is that if the letter is in our substitutions dictionary, for example, if we have I or O or S, we're basically going to sometimes replace it with the symbol. Now the 0.7 right over here means there's a 70% chance we're going to make the swap, so the word still looks recognizable. Meaning if we put basketball, there's a 30% chance that for the second letter A, it's not going to be the @ sign, and there's a 70% chance that it is going to be the @ sign. And finally, I'm going to go ahead and say else new word. I'm going to go ahead and say plus equals C. And then I'm going to go ahead and return new word. And so basically what this means is that if we don't replace the letter, we're just going to add it as it is. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and return our modified word. All right, so now we need to apply the helper function we have right over here to our input. So I'm going to go ahead and say new variable, it's called sport mod, stands for sport modification, equals replace with lookalike, our function name. I'm going to pass in the parameter sport. Copy and paste this 3 times. I'll change this to food. Pass in the parameter food. Let's call this number. And let's just leave it as number. And so we now run our replace with lookalike function on the sport and food words. And we're going to leave the number exactly as the user typed it. And so this is going to keep the password easy to remember while also strong. All right, next I'm going to go ahead and try and combine everything we have into a password. I'm going to go ahead and say password, creating a new variable, equals F quotation marks for sport mod, and then food mod, and then number mod. And so basically here we simply concatenate the modified sport, modified food, and the number. Now we're not adding extra symbols or random characters, just subtle letter changes. And this keeps it both strong and memorable. All right, so we're almost done. I'm just gonna go ahead and display the password. So I'm gonna say print, parentheses, quotation marks, \n, your strong and memorable password is : print password. All right, and finally, let's go ahead and run our function. Memorable password. Let's go ahead and run. Let's create a strong and memorable password. Enter your favorite sport. I'm just gonna go ahead and say basketball. Enter your favorite food. I'm gonna go ahead and say pizza. Enter your favorite number. Let's go 30. Error, now we have line 29. Let's go ahead and check our errors. So I didn't spell substitutions right. Let's go ahead and rerun. Okay, so we get to this point. Name password is not defined. Spell it wrong. Let's go ahead and check. Yep. All right, one final rerun. What's your favorite sport? Basketball. What's your favorite food? Pasta. What's your favorite number? 30. Your strong and memorable password is basketball pasta at 30. All right, now if you guys enjoyed this tutorial and learned something new, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and thanks for watching.